Hi, and welcome to your Urban Connection. And remember, this is the channel that is often imitated, but is never duplicated. Now, this is February the first day of Black History Month. And today I'm going to give a little history lesson to a couple of people that certainly need some lessons in Black history. Now, the two people that I'm referring to are number one, but I don't know if they're number one. I don't know who's number one, who's number two. But Tim Scott and Nikki Haley. Those are the two people that I want to talk to and educate here on this show uh, today. Now, uh, Tim Scott was a candidate for president, not a serious candidate, but a candidate anyhow. Now, Tim Scott entered the race claiming that he was running to be number one. He was running to be the president. He didn't want to be vice president. He didn't want to be anything but president. Now, Tim Scott had been led to believe that the racist, white nationalist, white supremacist party, the GOP party, was going to seriously take him as a serious candidate for for president of the United States. Now, to be honest, Tim Scott was fortunate enough to have a billionaire backing him and pumping money, not a lot, but pumping sufficient amount of money into his campaign. And that the guy actually is a multi-billionaire. His name is Larry Ellison, and he is the CEO of Oracle, which is a technology firm, okay, in California. Now, with all of the money that Larry Ellison and others contributed to Tim Scott's campaign, Tim Scott, through the months, could not generate more than 4% of the GOP members to support his campaign. Now, to me, that's no surprise. I'm surprised he got that much. But he had sufficient money. Unlike many other would-be Black candidates for higher office, he was able to get at least one or two backers with deep, deep pockets to get behind him, to no avail. You see, Tim did just what I thought he would do. He flamed out. He flamed out at 4%. Now, I did a podcast back about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago when Tim was at about 2% and Nikki Haley was at about 3%. And I said at that time, and I'm going to stick by it, I said that Tim Scott would never, ever get enough support to be a presidential candidate, at least not a serious one, on the Republican ticket in these United States of America. Now, at the same time, I said that Nikki Haley would never get the support of enough members of the GOP to support her bid to become president. And I also said that she would never be the vice president. And I stand by that statement. But now let's go back to Tim Scott. You see, I don't understand what it is about Tim Scott because Tim Scott is, in my opinion, no better than Herschel Walker. Okay? And you know how that turned out. Tim Scott is no better. I tell you what he is better at, though. He's better at licking the boots of Donald Trump. And he's better at letting Donald Trump make a complete ass out of him on stage before a national television audience by saying such stupid things and allowing himself to be pigeonholed by racist number one, Donald J. Trump, as he did about a week ago in New Hampshire. I mean, he stooped as low as anybody I have ever seen on national television and allowed Donald Trump to play him like a cheap fiddle while he licked his boots. And he topped it off by almost snatching the mic away from Donald Trump to say this: I love you. Tim Scott, didn't you learn anything from J.C. Watt, a former black congressman from Oklahoma City, who served 8 years before realizing that he was being used and was not going to be promoted, okay, by the Republican Party? Did you not learn anything from just recently the antics of Herschel Walker, who allowed himself to be used as an absolute fool in Georgia to run against Senator Warnock? Did you not learn anything, Tim? Have you spent 8 years in Congress in the GOP party and you've not learned about what they are and what they stand for, and that you don't fit into their plans in any way unless it's being used as a fool? You know, you remind me, there's a concrete company here in our city, and their motto is, I love it when you walk all over me. That's their motto. That's their slogan. And you, Tim, send that same signal and that same message to the racist, white nationalists, white supremacists that comprise the majority of the Republican Party. Tim, you can suck up, you can lick his boots up and down. You're not ever going to be the vice president, buddy. I hate to break it to you, okay? I hate to rain on your parade, but it's not going to happen. Now, that's not to say that you might not get a job in a cabinet should, and that's a long should he be elected. I mean, after all, if Ben Carson, who with no political experience whatsoever, no political knowledge, can get a job as Secretary of HUD, I'm sure Donald Trump can find somewhere in his cabinet for an idiot like you. But vice president, not going to happen, buddy. Not in my lifetime and not in yours. So you keep licking his boots, keep allowing him to play you like a cheap fiddle and make you the laughing stock not only of America, but of the whole world. Because that's exactly what you did about a week ago on that stage in New Hampshire, buddy. Now, not only did you do that, but the one person that you should have had an allegiance to, you threw under the bus. The very person that is responsible for you even being in the Senate was Nikki Haley. Donald Trump's not done a damn thing for you. He didn't do anything for you for the 8 years you were there, but make a fool of you, having you licking his boots, and you enjoyed it so much that now he's out of office, you're still licking him, trying to stay in his good graces. Why don't you try having a conversation with Condoleezza Rice? Condoleezza Rice is a conservative Republican, like you claim to be. You don't see or hear Condoleezza Rice licking Donald Trump's boots. And let me tell you, Condoleezza Rice has more common sense, more boss sense, more intelligence than you and Nikki Haley combined. You see, if you didn't learn from J.C. Watt and you didn't learn from Herschel Walker, surely, Tim, you were smart enough to learn from Colin Powell. Okay? Why do you think Colin Powell didn't run for president? He was heralded, he was highly regarded, but he knew where he stood with the GOP party. He knew where he was headed with the GOP party. And he did what any respectful man of integrity and a man with dignity would do. And he pointed out the shortcomings of the GOP. You don't have that kind of integrity. You don't have that kind of intelligence. You don't have the substance that a real man has who's in your position, Tim Scott. Okay? But you keep on licking. Keep on licking. You might lick your way into a cabinet position, but it won't be vice president. Okay, now let me turn to Nikki Haley. Clown number 2. Nikki Haley has the audacity to say that America has never been a racist country. Now I'm going to show you how dumb she sounds and how dumb she is. You see, right after Nikki Haley says that, Nikki will tell you that her daddy, who immigrated to this country, who was an intelligent man, educated man, was seeking and sought after a college professor's job. And no college, white college in America would hire Nikki Haley's dad. Why? Not that he wasn't qualified, not that he wasn't intelligent enough, but because of his race. You see, the only job in the college world that Nikki Haley's dad could garner was a job as a professor at an HBCU. That's right, historically Black college or university. It's the only job he could get. Now, Nikki Haley would also tell you about the time that she was a beauty pageant contestant, but she was not white and she was not Black, and they told her they didn't have any place for her. So Nikki Haley, I've come to the point where I understand that Nikki Haley doesn't know racism when she sees it. She doesn't know racism when she hears it. If she did, she would have recognized when conservative, white, Ann Coulter told brown Nikki Haley to go back where she came from. But she didn't recognize that as being racist. But I asked Nikki Haley, and I asked anybody Have you ever heard conservative Ann Coulter tell any person of Caucasian persuasion to go back where they came from? No. But Nikki Haley says America has never been racist. So I want to ask you, Nikki, I understand that you are a late comer. You see, you were born in 1972. So you're a late comer. And I want to tell you, when I say I'm going to give you a lesson in Black history, I'm going to do just that because I want to ask you something, Nikki. As you or your parents, have you ever went to a bank for a home loan and been denied because of your race? Well, I have, okay? And it was based on what they call redlining, which is also known as racism, which is also known as racial discrimination. But you see, Nikki, you haven't experienced that. So it's easy for you to say America has never been a racist country. Nikki, I want to ask you one other question. Have you ever been to an area to buy a home and told that you were not welcomed in that area of town? I have. You see, Nikki, that is something else that you have not experienced. So you wouldn't know racism when you see it. So you don't have not one reason to deny and tell the lie that you have been telling and promoting ever since you have been in politics with these words: America has never been a racist country. Nikki, deep down inside, you don't believe that. No more than you believe that your original name, which you refuse to use, is Nimarata. But you don't use that name because that doesn't sound American enough. So you use the name Nikki. Why is that, Nimarata? Why are you not comfortable using your given name? Is that due to racist or racism? I can think of no other reason why you'd be ashamed to use your name. Nimarata. Nimarata. But you choose to use Nikki. So now let me give you another little bit of history. Nikki, have you ever been denied the opportunity to go to a school in America? Have you ever done that? Have you ever had a governor of a state stand in the doorway and deny entrance to anyone of color, and in particular, Black? Have you ever did that? No, Nikki. So you don't know about that. And if you do know, you don't want to admit to it. You see, Nikki, all of these things are part of what is called systemic institutional racism that has been practiced in this country for over 300 years, Nimarata. But you see, you don't want to admit that. You want to say that all men are created equal. Well, that might be what's in black and white. That is not what is practiced. You see, there's an ordinance in black and white that says if you drive a motor vehicle, you're to stop at a red light. But every single day, people drive right through red lights. Nikki, Nimarata. So, Nikki, I want to ask you another question. Have you ever tried to go to a hotel and rent a room and been rejected or told we don't serve people of your ethnicity at this hotel. Nikki, you don't know, or you don't want to admit that fact? That too was a part of systemic institutional racism that was practiced in this country up until 1964. Nikki, Nimrata. But you see, you don't even want to know that because that doesn't appeal to your racist, white nationalist, white supremacy GOP. And in order for you to stay in the good graces of those people, you will lie through your teeth. You will deny everything that is factual to stay in the good graces of those people. But Nikki, this race you're in right now should show you no matter how many lies you tell, nor how much denial you engage in. They still do not accept you, Nikki Nimrata, as being a person who is entitled to be a vice president, let alone a president of these United States. You see, Nikki, you should learn there is, as we speak, members of the GOP who are making it very, very obvious that they don't want any part of you in that White House. And that's two reasons for that, Nikki. The first one is you're a woman. The second one is you are considered a brown woman. And both of those are unacceptable to the party in which you are willing to lie for and deny and try to embrace and lick the boots of racist number one to try to stay in good graces in hopes that you will get and secure the vice presidential Kansas spot. You'll be picked. It's not going to happen, Nikki. So why don't you come to your senses and realize you're fighting an uphill battle? I said when you were 2%, 3%, I said then, you didn't have a chance. You didn't have a chance. You were never going to be. Just like Tim Scott, okay? You were never going to be a serious candidate for the White House in either one of those positions. Not vice president and not president. You were fortunate that you were elected to the governorship in South Carolina. That's a state. But you're not going to be the commander-in-chief of these United States anytime soon. No matter how many lies you tell, no matter how much denial that you put forth, and you consider yourself to be above racism and not a part of it, and you don't see it, but you feel it. You feel it deep in your heart, and you know it, but you cannot show it. You cannot allow the GOP party to feel or think that you will go against what they stand for and admit that America is and always has been a racist country. Now, does that mean that everybody in America who's not a person of color is racist? No, it doesn't mean that. But when you have laws on the books that will deny opportunities, education, jobs, loans, and everything else to black folks a double system, a double justice system, double standards for black and brown people, one standard, and non-black people, non-brown people, another standard. When you have systemic racism, discrimination, hatred, Nikki, you got to wake up, sweetheart. If you have to wake up, and I hope you do it soon. You know, I don't know what makes you think that because you've had a little bit of success, that you actually fit in to the GOP on the same level as white males do. You remember Nikki? No, you don't remember. But there was a time, Nikki, when females, regardless of color, could not vote in this country. Were you not aware of that? So you've not come full circle yet. Well, you can be a governor, you can be a senator, you can be a congresswoman, but as a woman, you've got a tough road to hoe. You've got a ceiling over your head. And I don't see it coming down, or I don't see you going through that ceiling anytime soon. And you want to talk about how terrible it would be if Kamala Harris was to succeed to the presidency. Well, I'm going to tell you this. As it stands today, Kamala Harris has probably a much better chance than you do, Nikki, Emirata. So wake up, admit to what you don't know, and you don't know the history of Black America in this country for the last 300 to 400 years. You don't know it. And if you do know it, you don't want to admit it. But say this, that denial is shared by many in your party, both male and female, because they want to feel like the Black folks are not ready. And they've been lying all along, especially for the last 20, 30, 40 years, that Black folks are taking jobs away from white people. And they know that the census says that in just a few short years, maybe 20, that the white male, the white population, will no longer be the majority party, the majority population in the United States. And that is what they, and probably you, cannot stand. That is not something you want to look forward to. You don't want to get to that place. And they want to do everything they can, with your help, Nemarata, to keep Black folks from voting, to keep Black folks from positions of authority, positions of power. They want to keep Black folks at the bottom, begging, struggling for help from those at the top, who on a daily basis are ignoring them and doing everything they can to push them further down. And that's what you want to be, Nikki Haley? Well, unless you change your tune, and I think after this election cycle, maybe you will have learned your lesson, that you are no better and no more qualified for a vice president nor president than is Kamala Harris. Okay? Wake up. It's not going to happen for you, Nikki. Okay, folks, that's the show for today. And I hope that you've enjoyed the show. I hope I've enlightened some of you. And if I have, I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button. Okay? Thank you for watching, and see you next time.